So I will switch to Romanian, if it's okay. Păi, mă bucur foarte tare să ne vedem la prima întâlnire a Bucharest Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, astăzi pe 11 noiembrie. Îmi face o deosebită plăcere să avem această echipă de tipe, să zic așa, care ne-am întâlnit și ne-am organizat în a construi această comunitate. Vreau să-i mulțumesc lui Marius pentru că ne-a ajutat cu poza pe care o folosim pe pagina și pe cover-ul din LinkedIn cu Ateneul Român din București. Și fără alte detalii am să trec un pic la câteva părți descriptive despre comunitate și despre ceea ce ne propunem noi. Dacă poți să treci mai departe. Practic, cum vă spuneam, o să începem cu misiunea și cine suntem noi, cum vă puteți implica în această comunitate și la final o să avem și un special guest pe Erin LeDell, fondatoarea acestei mișcări globale. Despre Women in Machine Learning și Data Science la nivel global, sunt câteva lucruri pe care trebuie să le reținem. În primul rând că misiunea noastră și misiunea globală constă în sprijinirea și promovarea femeilor și minorităților care practică, studiază sau sunt interesate de domeniul de Machine Learning și Data Science. Global suntem peste 50.000 de membri, cu peste 90 de chaptere, cum le numim noi, adică mici comunități înființate la nivel de oraș și suntem prezenți în peste 30 de țări. Ce ne propunem local să facem în București? În primul rând, ne dorim să creăm acest cadru pentru femei, pentru a inspira, pentru a crește nivelul cunoașterii în domeniul ăsta de data science și machine learning și, în egală măsură, crescând nivelul cunoașterii, evident, ne dorim să le și susținem în acest domeniu. Ca pentru orice eveniment care implică femei, avem acest Global Code of Conduct, care vi-l recomand să-l citiți integral înainte de orice întâlnire, dar eu am să vă spicuiesc câteva informații, cum ar fi faptul că, în general, ne dorim să construim întâlniri calde, ok, atât pentru participanți, cât în special pentru femei și genurile minoritare. Ne dorim să avem un limbaj potrivit, similar unui mediu oficial, dar nu, cum să zic, formal 100%, să nu ne jignim, să folosim cuvinte respectuoase și să construim împreună un mediu în care să ne putem expune părerile argumentate, fără a încerca să mergem în zone mult prea personale. Cam aceasta ar fi despre misiune și acum am să las pe fiecare din cele care ne-am implicat în construirea acestei comunități să se prezinte și o să încep cu Simona.
Bună, eu sunt Simona Grădinaru. Momentan sunt Data Scientist la YouGo, o companie care se ocupă cu cercetarea de piață. În paralel sunt studentă la doctorat în cadrul Academiei de Studii Economice și în timpul liber m-am apucat de blogging. Recent am pornit un blog realizat 100% din art. Se numește The Science of Dating. Este un blog de art, deci să aibă acolo extensia rbind.io, dacă sunteți interesați să-l vedeți. Și în principiu ăsta e un proiect personal la care voiam să lucrez destul de mult timp și să raportez așa niște statistici interesante despre dating pe care să le pot lega în niște grafice drăguțe cu ggplot și să construiesc așa niște povești acolo. Cam atât despre mine.
Hello! Da. Bună! Eu sunt Ana. Momentan sunt data scientist la o companie din state care se numește Numeract. Ne ocupăm împreună de diverse proiecte, de la cai de curse până la vânzări și îmi place foarte mult ceea ce fac. Am terminat informatică economică în București și am și un master pe data science și mă bucur foarte mult să cunosc oameni care au aceleași interese ca și mine, în special fete. Și sper să ne auzim în curând cu bine și la celelalte meetup-uri.
Numele meu este Claudia, lucrez de aproape 3 ani în Banca Națională, la Serviciul de Evaluări Cantitative a Direcției de Stabilitate Financiară. Sunt entuziasmată de toate inovațiile din materia de analize de date, de la machine learning la deep learning, și ce aspir eu așa este să ajung la implementarea de tehnici moderne de artificial intelligence la nivel de bănci centrale, băncile centrale având o anumită rigiditate la noutăți și adaptându-se mai greu decât mediul privat. Cam atât. Andra?
Scuze, eram pe mute. Bună, eu sunt Andra. Sunt analist de securitate. Probabil sunt printre puținii de aici care nu lucrează cu date la job de zi cu zi. Însă, în paralel, studiez și eu data science, sunt la un masterat de statistică la cibernetică. Sunt pasionată de date și ceea ce ne pot oferi ele, deciziile care se pot lua și, practic, informația abundentă care se află acolo și pe care noi trebuie să o găsim, să o interpretăm și să o folosim mai departe. Cred că datele răspund probleme și... Ce anume?
Te-am pierdut pentru un moment, îmi cer scuze.
Da, cred că mai pică internetul. Și ca și celelalte fete, sunt interesată de toți algoritmii care ne ajută să lucrăm cu datele și să le interpretăm. Cam asta e.
Bună, eu sunt Cristina, lucrez în Academia de Studii Economice, sunt profesor la Departamentul de Statistică și Econometrie. Mă ocup și de dezvoltarea masterului de Data Science din aceeași universitate. De când am terminat facultatea, de 20 de ani, lucrez cu date și îmi place foarte mult să descoper lucruri interesante care nu se văd la prima vedere. Și mă interesează, sunt foarte interesantă de acest proiect și sper să se dezvolte foarte mult și să fie cât mai multe femei care lucrează cu date, cu metode cantitative. Mulțumesc!
Legătura.
Ines, ești pe mod?
Yeah. Eu sunt Ines Deacă, sunt în zona asta a datelor de mai mulți ani, să zicem peste 10 ani, sunt data scientist în domeniul telecomunicațiilor, lucrez cu mai multe tehnologii, îmi place să lucrez cu multe tehnologii, am anumite preferințe și mă bucur că suntem în comunitatea asta împreună. Îmi doresc să aducem mai multe femei alături, să construim o comunitate din care să învățăm împreună și din care să și putem să dezvoltăm lucruri în zona aceasta de data science și machine learning. Cam atât. Simona, cum facem aici? Prezint eu, tu?
Da, sigur pot să preiau eu.
Te rog, preiei tu? Mersi.
Eram curioasă dacă sunt pe mine sau nu, super. Bun, noi ne vom întâlni destul de recurent de acum încolo și suntem deschiși la orice membri ar dori să se implice. Drept urmare, puteți participa fie ca speaker. Asta înseamnă să pregătiți o prezentare și să conduceți cumva o discuție în interiorul comunității. Sau puteți pur și simplu să propuneți evenimente, speakeri sau orice topicuri de interes ați avea în minte. Asta pentru că suntem întotdeauna deschise la feedback. Avem și un formular de feedback pe care îl putem atașa acolo. Dacă aveți lucruri pe care vreți să le sugerați, anumite subiecte pe care vreți să le discutăm sau să facem o prezentare. Și, nu în ultimul rând, noi suntem active pe Facebook, pe LinkedIn și pe Twitter. Și chiar vă rugăm să dați un share și un like sau chiar să folosiți tagurile pe care le-am atașat acolo ca să ne crească și nouă expunerea și să atragem mai multe femei, de ce nu? Bun, cam atât despre partea asta standard, să zicem, organizatorică a întâlnirii. După cum ați văzut atunci când ați găsit Meetup-ul pe Meetup, avem tema de astăzi este de ce este nevoie de femei în machine learning și data science. Noi am pornit cumva de la niște seturi de date și am încercat să ne susținem un punct de vedere, pentru care am pornit și comunitatea de Women in Machine Learning and Data Science locală în București și am vrea să împărtășim cu voi o parte din rezultate. Înainte de toate, o să rog pe Ana să ne introducă puțin contextul global. Apropo de asta, ați vrea să trecem puțin, să schimbăm registrul și să mergem spre engleză ca să o includem și pe Erin sau vreți să continuăm prezentarea așa? Noi ne-am organizat în orice mod, așa că orice feedback e util.
Eu aș opta pentru limba engleză.
Engleză? Ok.
Eu sunt ok.
Ok?
All right.
Ai legătura.
Okay. All right. So why this initiative here and why women in machine learning and data science? Well, we first looked at the numbers at a global scale. And according to World Bank, in 2019, only 40% of the total workforce was represented by women, and 17% of them were in the IT field. So, as we know, data science and machine learning is like a trend. Everybody's talking about it lately. And I think it's like a great opportunity to include more women and to encourage them to be part of this field. We also went local because we are here, we are in Bucharest. So we looked at the available numbers for our local communities in Romania, and more specifically in Bucharest, to see if the global statistics are reflected here too. And Simona will walk us through the local story of women in machine learning and data science.
Great, thank you, Anna. So we looked, first of all, we tried to see what industry actually incorporates the data science and machine learning jobs. And we thought about information and communications as reported by our National Institute of Statistics. And as you can see it plotted in here, we have the average number of employees by year, and we have the percentages there. And of course, surprisingly for some of us, or not surprisingly for the remaining of us, women have actually a lower share of employees. In 2019, there were only 40% of women in the IT workforce, which is for me specifically, it's not surprisingly, it's also it's working hand in hand with the overall picture. And it's also confirming the pay gap, because we do have a pay gap in Romania. And since we're looking at this industry only, the pay gap is confirmed here. What's actually interested in is that neither the proportion of women and neither the pay gap aren't something new for us. Both of them are some trends that are inherited by time, so it's nothing new for us. It's just we're looking at this picture. So this is exactly where we came, because we thought this is where we can change something. Perhaps we can encourage more women to go in tech and to, of course, in women in machine learning and data science, if possible. So if we do manage to do that as small as possible, we can, of course, find a balance in between the women and men in the workforce, and perhaps close a bit that pay gap if possible. So our data is aggregated by this industry, IT, information and communications. And we thought, why don't we take this any further? And why don't we look at some smaller sectors within this industry? And we look at two of those, which is telecommunications and informatics services. And both of them are actually revealing exactly the same story. We don't have enough women in tech industries. And it's nothing new. It's also something that was since 2010, if you look at these charts as well. And we also looked at these industries because we thought this might be the target industries where we can actually find women in machine learning and data science. Of course, there may be a lot of other industries, but our data didn't actually allow us to go any further. So we just looked at those ones, and they actually confirmed everything we were anticipating. We don't have enough women in tech, and this is aggregated for the entire country, for Romania. And we thought, okay, if that's the trend in Romania, then what happens in Bucharest? And if you look at it, it's exactly the same story. It's simply slightly brighter, as we mentioned in here, because there are slightly more women in both telecommunications and informatics services in here, which is maybe normal because we're looking at Bucharest, which is the capital of Romania. We may encourage more women in here, and it's perfectly normal to happen this way. But there are still not enough women in technology and in digital. So we should definitely do something about it and try to encourage them more. So I would like to address to all of you, an open question. Why do you think that women don't choose for data science job? Is data science not catchy enough for them? Is it something else? Is it too tough? Is it what is it? What do you think? Why we don't have enough data scientists and actually women in tech industries?
I think I could have something to say about that. I'm thinking that maybe it's not only that it's not catchy enough for them, but what if having a job, like getting accepted for a job position in data science, it's actually slightly less probable for a woman than for a man. Let's say like most applicants would be men, right? So maybe we just don't stand out in the crowd. That could be also something. Of course, maybe some women just don't choose it, but I also believe that when a woman applies for such a position, she competes mostly with male. And it could be that maybe men just have more experience, or I don't know what would be the reason, but I think the odds could be also not favorable in that matter.
Yeah,
It's just
so
an idea.
Do you think we could do something to increase those opportunities for women to be available? I mean, in such a to have the tools in such a battle. It's too much said, but
Well, when it comes to experience, I think it's just experience, so it's fair. Like if a man is more skilled, it's fair for him to be chosen, right? But what I think is that maybe men just have a genuine interest in this, like more than women, maybe.
Actually,
but that's
I've
just
been reading about it. Yeah,
sorry
to interrupt. Yeah, I've been
no
reading
no
about it, and it seems like women aren't as confident as men. So if a woman has like 5 or 6 years of experience, they do compare themselves with a man that has 1 year or less than 1 year of experience. So it could be that it's a matter of confidence, of self-confidence, because maybe we don't think we have enough skills, even though we've been working in this industry for a while. So I think here's what we should do. Here's something that we should do. We should encourage women to feel more confident about their skills when they choose any tech-related job, and specifically data science ones.
Yeah, that could be. I think one point, sorry, I don't want to interrupt anybody. I just wanted to say that one point we could all relate to is that point when, I mean, we could just go back to high school, right? When we, at least some of us, studied mathematics and informatics. So we should just think back then, how were women compared, like how were we as women in our classes compared to men, like male? And I think it was pretty equal, like the odds of women being good at it was as equal as men being good at it, right? So it might be confidence indeed, like you just said. It's not a lack of skill or understanding on the matter, or it's not necessarily too technical for us, but it's just, yeah, maybe we just don't believe enough. But I also think this is not something to worry about. I mean,
I think
we definitely need more women, like you mentioned, but seeing the graphics and the statistics, sorry, I'm losing connection.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
a bit.
It's just the internet. Yeah.
I was reading also Christina opinion on chat. So we can unmute ourselves if it's okay. Of course, we can also put on chat our opinion. So she's saying that we are not encouraged enough to pursue sciences, and it starts in the educational area, just as you were mentioning. Please.
Sorry to interrupt. This is what I was also thinking about, because even if you are thinking back in high school, women are not really encouraged to go for the sciences. It's more like going for the, I don't know, for jobs like marketing or something that it's not that specific. It's thought that we are not that good at math as men are. So I think that it's much more deeper in our culture. So from my point of view, in this discussion on what we can actually do, it's not really a matter of how we can improve now, but we can we can try to improve the way we are taught to have confidence in ourselves, maybe going to high schools and make it understandable that we are equal to men as well. We can also do this kind of stuff. I think it's also a matter of perspective, because if you're looking at the numbers of how women, even in sciences or whatever domain, are going to career later in life, you'll see that maybe some women actually prefer to give up on their jobs if they have a child, maybe just to not be that focused and prefer to go with the child to the doctor or anything. So this can also slow down in the career. So it can be also related to a belief in the future, like, okay, I'm not going to pursue this because it might be way too stressful later in life and so on.
Yeah. Yes, could be. At least in the second part of the career, because for example, I have a daughter, and you actually stop your career when at least for me it was like I stopped for a year, in which I stayed at home with her. But indeed there is also this thing. it's not general. I mean, not all women stay
course.
at home 1 year or few months. It depends, but still, yeah. I agree with you on the point that education it's important. This is why I believe we have also such good figures, because back in the days when we were in schools, or at least I'm towards 35 plus, we were studying a lot, including all STEMs subjects. I mean, we were doing math, we were doing physics, chemistry, all these things, and I think they were better taught in schools than today. I think today they are learning too much. I'm seeing this on my little girl, and they are not able to focus as we were focusing, because we didn't have TikTok, Facebook, TV, yeah, so many other factors. So we were studying, we were going outside and playing, we were doing sports maybe. So there were less things to defocus, you know. So I think this is also
Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so yeah, what I wanted to I wanted to add here is that yes, we were equally, and I think we still are equally educated, at least until high school. Let's say it this way. I mean, if we can follow exactly the same high school as a boy, and it's exactly the same. But what happens is that when it comes to confidence in what you know, it seems like the girls aren't as confident as they used to. So I want to emphasize here, I was back in high school, I was going to a lot of Olympics, competitions of physics, of mathematics, and I was surrounded by boys. I mean, I was like an outlier. They were only like very few girls like me. I mean, just a bunch of them, and all of them were like were treated like they weren't actually girls or so. So that's actually, so when it comes to, I don't know, winning a competition or coming to a higher prize or so, it seems like it was more likely for a guy to win that instead of a girl. So that's something that perhaps goes back and forth and goes along with the time as the time passes, and it goes very further. I'm not sure if it's the case for data science, but I mean, it was a thing for me. I'm not sure if the things are going in the same direction nowadays as well.
I think for data science, sorry.
No, you can go. I'll ask my question a bit later.
I was thinking that I had this question, or anyway, a discussion in a podcast with actually it wasn't recently, but it was broadcasted recently, and I just remember that, you know, 10 years ago, I think, or almost 20 years ago, 15. I'm not recalling exactly, but at least 10 years ago, there was this first big data conference. And in this big data conference, there is one lady that organized the conference. And I remember I was as well an outlier, me and two of my colleagues. We were 3 in the company I worked then, and we were some outliers. So if then there were 2-3 ladies, I think now we are able to organize communities events in which we are, okay, maybe today we are 10, but there are other events in which we are more women. So I think this is an improvement. A small one, but it's an improvement.
Definitely.
And I think we are reading more often about data scientists and machine learning women, even locally. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the future looks bright, at least from now. Yeah, it looks like there will be more women, and I think we will be encouraging them as well. Yeah, any other thoughts, or can we switch to our special guest? Is she still around? I hope so.
I'm still here.
Great. Well, a big welcome to you, Erin. I'll let you introduce yourself because I lost my words and it's better this way.
Okay. Okay, maybe I'll just start sharing my screen. Okay, so I'll just put this up here while I do have a slide that introduces myself, so maybe I'll start here, but I'm just going to give a short talk about the organization. So Women in Machine Learning and Data Science is a global community. So yeah, in my day job, I am the chief machine learning scientist at a company called H2O AI, and that is in California. I live in Oakland, California, which is in the Bay Area. I don't know if you've heard of Oakland or not. It's basically just right across the bridge from San Francisco. And we have better weather over here, slightly better. So let's see. Yeah, so I do that. I work on H2O has a Python or an R package called H2O, and I basically spend a lot of my time working on automated machine learning. So I work on an algorithm called H2O AutoML, which I created a couple of years ago. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check it out. And then in terms of my other work, I'm the founder of Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, so this group that we're a part of, all of us. And I'm also a co-founder of Our Ladies Global. So I'm starting to spend less time on that and more time on WiMLDS. That's what I call it, WiMLDS. I don't know what other people, how they want to say that acronym. I've heard other people say WiMLDS or something like that. So feel free to call it whatever you like. So that Our Ladies is just another group that's similar, but focused specifically on the R language. And I'm still involved in the leadership team there, but I'm trying to spend less time on it so I can spend more time on WiMLDS, because that's more of my focus right now. And then I'm also the co-organizer of the Bay Area WiMLDS chapter, which was the first chapter that I started this with. And let me tell you a little bit about the organization. I do think that, you know, I couldn't understand what you were saying earlier, but you probably said some of the stuff that I'm about to say about what the organization is. So it's an international organization for women and gender minorities interested in machine learning and data science. And we basically, how we function is that we have chapters in cities all over the world, and those chapters host meetups where you can discuss machine learning and data science topics. We can do presentations, we can do workshops, and just networking, and really just anything around building a community locally so that you can help each other to learn machine learning and data science, and also to get jobs and to, you know, support each other. Because, you know, it is still a male-dominated field, and so there's a lot of things that women face that men don't, that it's helpful to have a support group to talk about those things that are unique to being a woman in data science. Let's see here. So just how did this all start? So just a little bit of history. So you could say, I guess it all started way back in 2012, which is about 8 years ago now. And there was an email list of about 10 women that somehow we found each other, people that were interested in machine learning. At this time, I was doing a PhD at Berkeley. And so a lot of the people in this group were just people that I knew from Berkeley. And then where the idea came from is there's this workshop that's called WiML Workshop, which is at the NeurIPS conference. Formerly used to be called NIPS, now it's called NeurIPS. But this is one of the biggest academic machine learning conferences that's out there. So that's kind of the, I would say the biggest one. Maybe the second biggest one is called ICML, the International Conference of Machine Learning. So this is much more on the academic side of things. And so there's this workshop, which is WiML Workshop, which stands for Women in Machine Learning. And what they would do is it's just like one day and, you know, women get together and present their research as part of the NeurIPS conference. And so I went to that in 2012 and then 2013. In 2012, you know, it was my first time and I thought, oh, this is such a cool idea. I wish that I could just like do this more than once a year. But I didn't do anything for a whole year. Then I went back again. And then I was like, you know what? I think this would be a good meetup. Because in San Francisco, like there's so many tech meetups. I mean, even 8 years ago, there's thousands of meetups for every single thing, every single night of the week. And so I would go to a lot of meetups to kind of learn about data science and machine learning. And there was just like 100 men and like 5 women. So I was just feeling like this is not like a great environment for women. So I thought, you know, if this could just be a meetup, that would be, you know, that would be something that I would like to do. And I would like to build a local community. So it did initially kind of start out as like, maybe we would have chapters of the WiML workshop, but then it kind of just evolved into its own thing. And one of the reasons that it's WiMLDS, so I added the data science on there, is because I did feel that the WiML community was a bit too academic, and it didn't really include all these other sort of new technologies that were coming out. So just data science in general. So programming and data engineering and all of this other stuff that's not specifically machine learning. I thought it made sense to kind of broaden the scope a little bit. So that's why it's Women in Machine Learning and Data Science. So I started this meetup in the Bay Area in 2013. And I think there were about 20 people that came to the first group. So that happened a long time ago. Then about a year later, someone in New York got in touch with me, I think over Meetup, and just said, hey, you know, I saw this group that you have. I want to start one in New York. You know, can I do that? And I was like, yes, that's a great idea. So then the New York chapter started. And then about a year later, another person got in touch and was in North Carolina, which is a state in the United States, said they wanted to start a chapter. So it was very, very slow at the beginning. And, you know, back in like 8 years ago, data science and machine learning weren't as popular as they are now, obviously. So it was less interest back then. But I think it was around 2015 that we decided to become a nonprofit. And that's when we started to get more chapters, and there's been a huge growth in the last 2 years. Now we have almost 100. I think it says 92 on Meetup, and I think there's actually more than that, or there's a couple that are like in the process of being created right now. So I'll just round up to 100 because it's a nice even number. So almost 100 chapters now, and they're just everywhere all over the world. And really, like I haven't done a whole lot other than putting ourselves on Twitter and trying to promote ourselves that way. people find us somehow, either by seeing us on Twitter or Meetup, or they hear about it some other way, and then they contact us and say, hey, we want to start a chapter in our city. And then that's, you know, we help people get their chapters started, and we kind of give people some infrastructure like a Meetup account, and now we have Zoom and stuff like that. So this is what the growth actually looks like. So you can get this data from Meetup. One of the projects that I've worked on in the past is this, making an R package that accesses the Meetup API, so you can get data about Meetup groups. So I put the URL for that at the bottom if you want to play around with Meetup data. Yeah, the Meetup R package is what it's called. I think there's a Python API as well, but I don't know much about it. But yeah, you can see, it's kind of hard to see the dates, but you'll see probably sometime around like the end of 2018, we just had a huge explosion of interest in people wanting to start chapters. So we're very excited about that, but it was a slow start and just kind of taken off recently. And we have almost 60,000. I checked right before this. I think there was around 58,000 members in Meetup. So this is, I don't know if this is a fully complete list. This is what's listed on our website right now, but you can see that we have chapters all over the world, and you can find the whole list at chapters, WiMLDS.org.chapters/chapters. In here's, if you go to this link on the bottom, meetup.com/topics/WiMLDS. So when we create a new Meetup group, we can add tags or topics. And so one of the tags that we add is WiMLDS, which allows us to kind of see all the groups at once. And so you can see there's a couple, these are the newest groups that were shown on that page. You'll see your chapter on there on the bottom left. And we've, you know, got a few other ones here. So one of the places that we're popular and trying to, you know, create awareness of our group and sort of what we do is on Twitter. I don't know how popular Twitter is in Romania. You guys have mentioned Facebook. Maybe that's more popular than Twitter. I'm not sure, but one of the things that we do on that account is we try to highlight work that people have done, that women have done in machine learning and data science. So anytime somebody, you know, does a presentation or writes a paper or, you know, anything like even a blog post written by a woman about data science, we try to amplify that and, you know, make sure lots of people can see it. So that's something that we do. We do a lot of, like, I would say, social justice type of work or activism. So we tweet a lot about things like algorithmic fairness and other kinds of issues, sort of social justice issues in AI. That could be related to gender, you know, discrimination, stuff like that. But we just try to make people aware of these things and to like talk about them and not be uncomfortable talking about this stuff, because there are a lot of issues in AI in the field itself, not just the representation issue of not having enough women, but like lots of ways that AI can be harmful, especially towards minority groups. So there's this new field about AI ethics that's kind of coming up, which is very interesting, and that's something that kind of fits with our mission as well. We also promote the events for the chapters. So now that we're in the pandemic, almost, I think all of our chapters are online. I did see one chapter recently, I think it was in Zurich, which was having an in-person meetup. I think that was about a month ago. I think the pandemic has gotten worse in the last month, so they might be back online. So right now, most of our events are online. So one of the nice things about that is that it means anybody can attend anybody's meetup. So it's actually bringing our community closer together in a way, because we can, you know, if you can just log into Zoom and attend a meetup anywhere in the world, that's a great way to promote unity amongst our chapters. So we try to make sure everybody knows about our events, and if there's other events of interest, we promote that, and also job opportunities. So I think one of the benefits of having this community is to help you with your career and to help you find good job opportunities, help you become prepared to be successful at getting those jobs. We try to network, like if I know about a job, I will share it with the communities, you know. And if there's a company that you want to work at, you could find a woman that maybe is in our group that works there, and you could, you know, get an interview that way or talk to them about the company. We just want to make, you know, people's careers move forward, because one goal is to get more people into the field, but then the other goal is to get them promoted to be in leadership roles. And so there's a lot of talk about like representation and let's make sure we have women on our team, but there's a whole nother task of trying to get women into leadership roles, because that's where we really have power and where we can make a difference, is if we have, you know, leadership roles in our organizations. So I think that's very important. So if you're, I'm not sure if you guys have a Twitter handle yet, but I think you do, I can't remember. But we have a list on Twitter of all the chapters. So if you go to this URL, well, that's a you know, a referral link. It'll send you to the place where we have all the chapters, so you can find all the other chapters on Twitter and follow them and see what events they're having. So this is just a couple examples from the last month or two of, you know, events that some of our chapters have had. I was just giving a little shout out to my home chapter, the Bay Area chapter. Here's some pictures from our events. We have a lot of tech companies, of course, in the Bay Area, so we get to have meetups at all these big companies that you've probably heard of, like, you know, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, you know, Uber, whatever. Actually, we have never had a meetup at Uber because they're kind of a bad company. We have had meetups at Lyft, which is another ride-sharing company that's a competitor to Uber that's a little bit more female friendly. So we try not to actually have meetups at companies that we think are bad companies. Like, I personally think Uber has a lot of issues. So yeah, so if there's any kind of big scandal at a company, we tend to not try to partner with them. Then our website. So our website is, you know, it needs a little bit of work. I think it's a little outdated, I would say, but we do have the links to all the chapters on there and all the social media links, and we have a link to our code of conduct, and also a free jobs board. So if you're looking for a job, or if you want to post a job at your company, we have this jobs board here. I'll also mention that we have a jobs channel in our global Slack group as well, which is a good place. So yeah, we have a Slack group. So if you're not in the Slack group, you can join by sending an email to slack@wimlds.org. And there's about 1,800 people in there right now. It's just a good place, especially if you're new to data science, to ask questions, to learn about things, or just to share, you know, experiences you're having. We have a gender equality channel where people kind of share experiences or frustrations, let's say, about, you know, being a woman in machine learning and dealing with all the stuff that comes with that. So it's just a nice supportive place, and it's a great place to meet people from the global community as well. And here's just a bunch of links to things: website, Twitter, our GitHub. There's not much on the GitHub. We do have something that we call the starter kit, which is something that helps chapters get their chapter started. Meetup, that if you go to that URL, you'll see all the groups that are tagged with WiMLDS. we have a LinkedIn company for the whole group. I saw that you guys have a local one as well. So a lot of the local chapters will have a LinkedIn company that you can follow for updates. We also have a LinkedIn group, which I did not put the link for on here, but if you search for Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, so it's a group, so it's different. So the members of the group actually post the content in there. Mostly I see people posting jobs and events. It's not too active. We do have an Instagram, which, you know, it's not too active, but we do have somebody that's managing that, and we try to just share pictures from our meetups. So I mentioned the starter kit. You guys already have your chapter started, but if you do have friends that live in other countries or even other cities, I guess in Romania, if there's another city where you would want to have a chapter, you know, we have this whole setup where we can help you get your chapter started. So, you know, spread the word to any friends that you might have elsewhere. So that's what I have for slides. I did take a few notes when you guys were talking about, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I took some notes when you were talking at the end of the last discussion about, like, why are there not so many women in data science, and what are the challenges that women face? So I'll just give a few answers to that myself. So one of the things that was brought up was self-confidence was a big thing that you mentioned a few times. So that is true. It is true that, like, they've done studies where women tend to sort of rate themselves lower than their male peers, even if they're equally talented. So you see that for when people apply to jobs, and it says, you know, we need 3 to 5 years of experience, and you need this skill and this skill and this skill. Often when women look at that, if they don't have everything on there, like 100%, they'll feel not confident to apply for the job. But for whatever reason, cultural programming, whatever it is, men would look at that same job description and say, oh, I don't know, like, I'm pretty good at data science, I'm just gonna apply, you know, Mr. Confident, applies for the job, and then, you know, they do, that is one of the things that actually women could change about themselves. So one of the things that I want to highlight, though, is that often the gender issue gets sort of blamed or put on women to solve, and I do think there are things that we have to do on our own to help ourselves, but a lot of what happens to us is not our fault, and it's stuff that we might not actually be able to change. So that's a little bit frustrating, because, you know, it's a problem of society. It's not a problem that women have. It's a societal problem that has to be fixed by men and women. So we can do what we can do to help ourselves, but we also need help from men to change the way that they think. And so things that we can work on are things like confidence, just to know that when you read a job description, that there will be men with 1 year of experience that apply to the same job, and just to be aware of that, and to just try to remind yourself that, you know, if a man with no experience applies to this job, so can I. And you don't need to, you know, feel bad about that, or feel bad that we're not confident as much. I think it's just something to work at, and I think one of the goals of the meetups is to get people more confident. And one of the ways to do that is to volunteer to give a little presentation at a meetup. If you've never spoken in front of an audience before, a meetup is a perfect way to do that, because number one, it's not a big audience, it's a small audience. It's probably people that you will get to know and you'll feel comfortable around. Especially if it's mostly women that are coming to the meetup, you'll feel much more supported, I think. And so just to get experience with talking about machine learning and sharing what you know is helpful. And also just talking with, you know, I think that's why the Slack is useful, because you can start to have a lot of conversations about data science with people and just get comfortable talking about it. And then one other thing was that I wanted to mention is, one of the reasons, you're saying, or people were saying that when you apply to a job, there's maybe like 10 male candidates and 1 female. And so there's not as much of a chance to get the job. But I think one of the reasons that men do get jobs over women, even if they're equally capable, is because people like to hire people like themselves. And so if there's men who are hiring, they see a man that reminds them of themselves and they want to hire that person. And so one of the things that can be done to fix that is if you work at a company and you see that somebody's interviewing a woman, make sure that either you're involved in the hiring process or some women are involved in that hiring process, because I think that can help outcomes. I mean, you might not have control over that, and that's not something you can do about, but I do think that that one of the reasons that women don't get hired is because of men wanting to hire men that remind them of themselves. So that's something that we just need to talk to men about, and to also, if you have the chance to get involved in the hiring process at your company, it's helpful to do that. And then the last thing that's, I guess, gets talked about a lot is something that people call the pipeline problem, that there's just not enough women, interested in math and science, and then, or, not enough people applying to jobs. And so one of the, I would call it like a scapegoat. I don't know, that term, but like, it's sort of like, oh, it's the pipeline problem. We can't help that we don't have any women at our company. They're just not any women who applied, and the ones that did apply were no good or whatever. So people like to blame the pipeline, and I think that is one real issue that should be addressed, and we try to get more women interested in data science and stuff like that. But one of the real reasons that there aren't as many women like in the field that get promoted is because actually people, even if they make it into the field, a lot of people leave. A lot of women leave because of discrimination that they face at the job. So there's the challenge of getting the job to begin with. And then once you're there, if it's not a nice environment to work in, if you have male colleagues, or if you who discriminate against you, or if you hear sexist comments all the time, it's not a nice environment to work in. So people do leave. So I think one of the things that we need to remember is that that's where we need our male allies to help us, is to help create better environments for us to work in, because it's not just about getting people in the door, it's about making it a nice environment for them to stay there and then to get promoted. And that does require a lot of joint effort by both genders. And so I think one thing to think about is just to remember that this is not all your problem to fix. It's maybe helpful to try to get men involved as well to help, because I think it shouldn't just be our problem to fix. So don't feel like you have to shoulder the whole burden of this this problem. So I think in the last 8 years that I've been working on this, it's changed so much, and maybe it changes at different rates in different points of the world, but at least in the Bay Area, like the change from when we started this 8 years ago till now is huge. And we have such a strong community and so many people helping each other get jobs and to get speaking opportunities at conferences and things like that. It's just made a huge difference. And so I think you guys are just getting started in Romania, but you will feel the effects of your work. It will take probably years to see that, but what else are we going to do? We have to just do the work and wait for the results, and it will happen. And I think you will start to to feel like you are making a big impact locally. So I'm very happy that you guys have started this chapter, and I think you're really gonna enjoy creating this community and then being a part of a bigger community as well. And so I'm congratulations for starting your group. So I think that's kind of all I have to say, but if you want to ask questions or we can have a discussion, feel free to do that.
Thank you, Erin, for your speech. I think I have something to add or start the discussion about. You said that even women who are employed in tech positions tend to leave their jobs after a while due to discrimination and lack of belonging, let's say. In my opinion, as I observed, I saw that women are also less confrontational, meaning if they feel like they are, I don't know,
Challenged?
Something challenged, not really challenged. If there's something unfair that happens, they do not really find their voice to say, hey, it's not all right. You're not okay in this situation. So maybe this kind of communities can help women to just be more self-confident and be able to raise their voice when something happens at their job and not have to leave because they don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of having our Slack group or wherever you're communicating with women is just to have somebody to tell these stories to. Like, I was at work today and this, guy said this thing and it made me angry, and then I didn't know what to say and I just didn't say anything, and now I feel bad. I think of people, at least from my own experience, like, things happen all the time that make me mad, and I don't always say something. I do a lot more than I used to, but one of the things that's frustrating is you get mad at yourself afterwards. Like, you spend time thinking about it and you're like, oh, I should have said like that, and in the moment you're just like not able to say something sometimes. And so I think what helps is having a conversation with other women about like the situation, and then they might say, oh, that happened to me and this is what I did, and then you kind of get some practice about like, how do you want to prepare for these uncomfortable encounters or whatever. And then maybe at some point you do get the confidence to just say something out loud, and then you feel good about it, or maybe you feel bad about it because it's new and feels uncomfortable. But it is important to be able to say something. And I think that's also a way that men can help too, is when men see something that's bad, that they say something. That seems to help a lot more even than when the women say it. But so even just talking to your male colleagues who you trust, who you think might be, feminists or supporting women, you could say, yeah, in that meeting the other day, I mentioned this idea, and then nobody said anything or said it was stupid, and then the other guy over there said the same thing, and then everybody thought it was a great idea. Maybe next time that happens, maybe you could point out that I just said that idea, or, oh, that builds upon what so-and-so just said, because this is like a common thing that happens in meetings. It's like a woman has an idea and nobody listens, and then the man says the same idea, and everyone's like, oh, what a good idea.
I think
yeah,
we should also train our voices, because they are loud, and we
and just
have to work.
When you say an idea with confidence, it does change the feel of the idea. If you say, so it's just, there's a lot of things that the little things that can be changed and shifted over time that will help in these situations. And I do think that having a network of women that you can talk to about when this stuff happens is so important. At least for me, like, even if something annoying happens and I don't want to talk about it at work, I can go to my, WiMLDS group, or we also have a similar thing in Our Ladies where we, basically bitch about stuff. We're like, oh, this happened and it like frustrates me. It's helpful. So sometimes you just need this like group therapy stuff to get through. It. And then once you get the confidence, you can be an example for other women in your company or other women in your network to show that you can stand up to discrimination or just little things. It's almost harder now than it used to be when the sexism was just so obvious. It's like much more subtle now. So it's harder to catch it, like when it's happening, and to say something about it, because it seems so small, but it's like all these little small things that add up over time that kind of like weigh us down. So I think it is important to call out even the small things.
In a more optimistic note, I think that if we are now able to see the more subtle manifestations of sexism, it means that we kind of tackled the obvious ones. So,
yeah, we've already had a lot of progress. Yeah, so it's just a an ongoing project, and I do feel really good about how the field is changing, and there's been a lot of changes, especially in the past couple of years, that have been big. At some of the big conferences, there's been a lot of shifts in terms of like, I mentioned how the group started as sort of inspired by the WiML workshop at the NeurIPS conference. So if you don't know the history of NeurIPS, it used to be called NIPS, so Neural Information Processing Systems. But NIPS is also like a word that is sort of a sexual word that's inappropriate to be using as the name of a conference. So it took a lot of effort to get that changed, and there was a lot of resistance, and actually WiMLDS was a big part of trying to get that changed, at least in terms of like promoting stuff on Twitter and sort of holding people accountable and promoting some of the voices that were promoting the name change and stuff like that. So like that to me was a very significant change, because it just meant, even though it was so small, it's just changing the name. It meant that we're not willing to take that anymore, and we're just gonna keep complaining about it until it gets changed. And then it did, and now nobody cares anymore. It's not a big fight, it's not a big thing. It's just seems obvious now that you shouldn't have a name of a conference that can be like make people uncomfortable. And so yeah, when changes happen, it changes quickly, and then when you look back, you're like, oh wow, I can't believe we used to do it that old way. So I think big changes at big conferences and big important things are important to show that people do care and they will respect women. So
yeah, sounds great. But it's nice that things are changing, and every cloud has a silver lining. So although we're still somehow living in the cloud right now, it will still be sunny at some moment, and things will get better. I'm sure they will. And we do have something to say and to contribute with. So we're looking forward to doing that locally as well, as you mentioned, although it may take like years, maybe, or maybe not, we shall see. But I'm sure things are changing, and we do have a positive impact. Yeah, thank you, Erin, for all your thoughts. I think you're really inspiring to all of us. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for debating all these subjects with us, because yeah, you've basically involved into our discussion, into our debate, and it's more than we were expecting from you. So thank you very much. Big warm thank you for everything. And yeah, I think we're getting close to the end. Thank you everyone for joining this this meetup. We do have a feedback form. If you want to give us any feedback, feel free to fill it. There's also a section that relates to whatever you want to see during the next presentations. And if you have any ideas, feel free to reach us. We are happy to hear you and to do anything we might find interesting from now on. And I think that was it. Everyone stay healthy and sane inside. And looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a
Thanks a
nice
lot,
day.
Erin.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.